The answer to that question is no, because I was told to shut up by my mum, dad, and partner, no, Buddha specifically.
Shut up, just shut up, shut up, shut up, just shut up, shut up.
Hey guys, it's your boy Bux Says back again for another video this week. Sorry for the clickbait last week, and again, it's not really a clickbait title this week. I actually did ask my parents if I could move in with my partner before marriage, and that's pretty controversial actually. I'm sure a lot of you I'm sure there will be judgment for that, considering I'm a Muslim, and I do love my religion very much. And before we get into anything, especially with it being the holy month of Ramadan, I don't want people to think that I'm using the religion to talk up as like a really like a talking point. I don't want to stir up any tension, or I'm not trying to use the religion as a crutch. I just think the religion and the wider culture is a very important part of the story or the narrative I'm trying to tell. I'm not trying to be disrespectful in any way. I hope everyone's having a good Ramadan. And I know with obviously talking about relationships, especially talking about relationships in England and talking about your personal life, you're opening yourself up to a lot of judgment. I accept that. Do I care? No, not really. These views are my own. And my views are my own. My relationship with God is my relationship with God. And do I fear the judgment of other people? No, I don't think people should. I fear the judgment of God, and that's my relationship with God, really. So I think people that will have an issue with what I'm saying or me saying my personal views, I think you should probably stay around till the end of the video, because you might be quite surprised with what I have to say. I am quite a liberal Muslim, I think, by definition, but I still identify as Muslim. I love my religion. I fast, I pray. I do what I can, just like a lot of you. But getting into the video now, one of the main comments I got from everyone around the last video, and thanks for the support on that, was there's a lot of people talking about how a lot of the reasons why relationships fail, at least in my culture, and I will be speaking from my viewpoint on having grown up as a Muslim Pakistani, was that you can't live with your partner before marriage, and that a lot of people think that the problems that come with a marriage, half of them would be eroded if you were able to live with your partner. And I think I thought in a very similar way when I approached my parents, is because, I'm the type of person that very much doesn't like to have inherent risk. I like to know what I'm getting myself into, especially when it's a 60-odd year commitment. The thought, I guess, of not living with someone before marriage is it's alien for me. I think half of the reason why it's alien for me is I've been brought up in a very Western country. The media and entertainment we're exposed to, you have a very traditional linear format of how people end up in relationships, or at least the ones I've been exposed to. I.e., people date, they then they move in together, then get engaged, and then get married. So I'm sure there's an exposure to that, and I'm sure there's a seep of Western culture, and maybe disrespecting my own culture in some ways. But the difficulty is that as I like I said, I asked, and it's something that my partner was very uncomfortable with. She didn't want to do it at all. My mum and dad, it's an absolute no-no for them, and rightfully so. They managed to forge a pretty successful marriage without doing so, and it's just how they've been raised, or how their parents raised them, and it's something very foreign to them. I'm not sure if it will be foreign to us as parents. I can't speak again. I'm not a parent, but it's a very, very interesting thing, isn't it? Because on one hand, you think, how can you not know your partner fully before you get married to them? I always wonder sometimes how our parents did it. A lot of them are thrust into this situation of marriage and told to make it work, and I'm sure they go through lots of ups and downs, but they just somehow manage to, just with grit and determination, keep it going. Like I said, de-risk. I like to know everything. I want to simulate every situation, and I think that's really the issue. There is no end to it, right? You can't simulate every situation that you're ever going to be in with your partner. You don't know how someone's going to be when they become a parent. You don't know how someone is going to be if they ever lose their job. You can't really simulate the stresses of life, because they evolve. And so moving in does take, a pause. Maybe, you move in someone for 2 years, it takes the risks of those 2 years out, something that you have to think about. But life is ever changing, people evolve, people change. I'm sure if you look at the divorce rates for people that have lived together before marriage and people that haven't lived together before marriage, I'm sure they'd be probably quite similar. Relationships are risk heavy. You can eliminate some of the risk, but you can't eliminate it all. And that's been very clear in my own relationship, having lived with my partner, in that I've seen loads of different things in this relationship in the last 2 years where there's been lots of pressure moments, lots of stress moments, and how we deal with it is just how we deal with it, right? A very personal thing. But I'm not sure how that would change if we did that when we were living together. I think part of actually having marriage um, as a component is that once you're married, or at least you have that label, I think there's a lot of respect given to that label. When you live together, or you live together outside of marriage, I think I guess it sometimes can be an easy out, but I guess it depends on how committed you are, right? So look, I started out wanting to, I guess, take the more Western approach, and again, I recognize that that's a sin. I'm not a Molan, I'm not a Maulvi. I can't tell people how to practice their religion. I think I would like to say I'm a decent Muslim, not the best, not the worst. Um, for me at least, the sin, I didn't ever think that maybe living with your partner is probably the difference between going to heaven or hell. But again, I can understand what people do. The rules are the rules, they're there to be followed. So again, don't want to cause any offense. These are my personal views. Didn't do it, got a nikah instead, and ended up living with my partner, and it's been great to see how things evolve. And it's a very there's a lot of education in stuff like this, so you start to learn a lot more about yourself. I will say, if you don't live with your partner, if you do live with your partner, I think the I'll focus on this side, right? Having not lived with my partner before marriage, how can you eliminate that risk, right? Because that's all people want to do, right? They want to know the type of person they're marrying. I think a lot of people do know the type of person they're marrying. I think you'll probably get a good sense of who you're marrying within the first 2-3 months of probably courting someone. But I think the first one is have difficult conversations. Interested Marvel movies, supporting the same football team, having the same hobbies, liking the same food, that stuff's not going to really get you through stressful times. Being able to quote Thanos or whoever, you know, what hobbies don't get you through tough times, character does. So how do you test someone's character? You have difficult conversations, you don't shy away from that. And I'm not saying to start asking someone about their religious viewpoints or asking someone deep questions when you first see them, but as you progress, you probably want to get a sense of how someone will react to certain situations, or I mean, to be fair, I got stuck in this thing of asking permutations that would never come up. How will you do this with your kids? How will you do that with your kids? I mean, you're not a parent, right? You don't know. But there are certain things, how people reason, how people logic, how they speak to you tonally. You can tell a lot through that. I think the second thing is surround people. If you can't move out people and you want to still respect your parents, you want to respect your culture, then you can also have that conversation with probably your family to have at least surround yourself with that person. So get them involved with your circle of trust, whether that's your family or your friends, whoever you're more close to. See how they treat your family and your friends. See how they treat you in front of your family and friends. See how they treat others, in a public setting, when you go out. How they talk about their work colleagues. How someone talks about other people is probably how they'll talk about you. And so just getting that exposure to someone will eliminate risk. And I think the last one, the most important one, is actually bring a lot of positivity in for it yourself. Look, would I have loved to have lived with my partner before marriage? Probably yes, I would have, because it would have given me more insight into making a lifetime decision, right? But I wasn't able to do that. And why I didn't do that was because I chose to respect my family and my partner. My family are very important to me. I don't, living with my partner is not worth upsetting my parents over, right? So that's the decision I made. And when we talk about people wanting to live with their partner, you can do whatever you want, right? You can live with your partner. I think saying that, oh, our culture doesn't allow us to do something, or our religion, no, it's not the culture or the religion. You can't blame the culture or religion. It's you. You want to respect your culture, you want to respect your religion, or you want to respect your parents. Those are all very valid things to want to respect or want to do. Those aren't an indictment on you. Those aren't a bad thing. I think what you can do is leave that compartmentalized and actually be very positive. So if you bring positivity into a relationship, it will end up becoming a more positive hub for you to kind of grow into. If you are kind of stuck between two walls or confused, or bringing some sort of confusion as to how you should approach stuff, I think that confusion will seep into what you're trying to do, and that's not great in and of itself. So look, I think at the end of the day, it was really helpful getting some of those comments. Do I think moving in with your partner can help? Yes, I do think it does. Do I think it's absolutely necessary that you need to? No, I don't think so. I think some things are more important than your own comfort sometimes, actually. Honouring the people that raised you, honouring the religion, honouring whatever. These aren't necessarily bad things. I think, at the end of the day, relationships are always risk. There's always going to be embedded risk into them. You can manage and eliminate that risk whilst probably also respecting your culture, your religion, your family. And that's something I've learned over the past 2 years. And that's what Bux has to say for this week.